I'm 99 years old. I've watched people chase money for a century. I've seen 18 recessions. I've seen bull markets and crashes. I've seen fortunes made and fortunes lost. And I've learned something that nobody wants to hear. Most people are aiming at the wrong target. I've seen billionaires who are miserable. I've seen school teachers who are free. I've known people with $50 million who feel trapped. I've known people with $500,000 who sleep like babies. The difference isn't the number. It's the ratio between what you have and what you need. Most people think the goal is $10 million. They think wealth means a private jet, a house in the Hamptons, a yacht. That is stupid. I did not intend to get rich. I just wanted to get independent. And the number for independence is much lower than you think. Here's what nobody tells you. If you aim for the wrong number, you will work until you die. You'll climb and never feel like you've arrived. But if you understand the $500,000 concept, you can be free in a decade, not theoretically free. Actually free. Free to say no. Free to walk away. Free to do what you want with your time. I'm about to die. I won't be here much longer. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to show you the 5 mental shifts that make $500,000 the only number that matters. Not 5 million. Not 10 million. $500,000. That's the number. And I'm going to explain the math of freedom. And most people believe they need $5 million or $10 million to be wealthy or set for life. They spend decades stressed out, chasing a massive number because financial advisors tell them they need to replace 100% of their peak income. That is a lie designed to keep you working and paying fees. It is mathematically wrong and psychologically disastrous. The truth is that wealth is not an absolute number. It is a ratio, capital divided by desires. If you have $1 million but need $2 million worth of lifestyle, you're poor. If you have $500,000 but only need $200,000 worth of lifestyle, you're rich. It's arithmetic, not philosophy. Independence does not require $10 million. It requires a critical mass of capital, roughly $500,000, combined with the suppression of envy and needs. Once you have $500,000 and low expectations, the math of compounding takes over. And you are freer than a man with $10 million and high expenses. I figured this out when I was 35. It saved me 40 years of worry. Promise me you'll watch this entire video. Not because I need the watch time, but because people who build real wealth finish what they start. If you can't commit 40 minutes to learning something that took me 70 years to understand, you're not ready to build real wealth. I'm going to show you 5 mental shifts, 5 shifts that turn $500,000 into a fortress of independence. First, the envy filter. Second, critical mass math. Third, inverting the goal. Fourth, the compound shield. Fifth, avoidance of folly. These 5 shifts are the difference between freedom and slavery. The first shift is about your brain, not your wallet. Let's start with the envy filter. This is the killer, the thing that destroys more wealth than any market crash. Envy drives up your needed number. If your neighbor has $1 million, suddenly $500,000 doesn't feel like enough. It makes you spend capital on status symbols that depreciate. The bigger house, the nicer car, the exotic vacation. All to show people you don't even like that you're successful. It keeps you on the treadmill. You work harder to earn more, to spend more, to impress people who aren't paying attention. And at the end of your life, you realize you were running in place. Envy is the only sin you can't have any fun at. Think about it. Lust can be fun. Gluttony, at least you get a good meal. Even anger can give you a short thrill. But envy, you just sit there stewing while the other guy enjoys his yacht. You don't gain a thing. There's a lot of pain and no fun. Why would you want to get on that trolley? Let me tell you about a corporate executive, 55 years old, Los Angeles. This was the 1990s boom. Tech stocks were soaring. Real estate was exploding. Everyone was getting rich, or at least looking rich. This executive was doing well. He made $500,000 a year. That's good money, real money, enough to retire comfortably if he saved it. But he lived in a neighborhood where everyone made $2 million a year. His neighbors were investment bankers, tech founders, entertainment executives. They had bigger houses, nicer cars, better vacations, and it ate at him. Every day he drove past their houses and felt small. Every dinner party he felt inadequate, so he did what everyone does. He upgraded, bought a bigger house to fit in, $4 million, big mortgage, better cars, a Range Rover for him, a Mercedes for his wife, better vacations, Europe every summer, Aspen every winter, country club membership, private school for the kids. He saved nothing. The math was brutal. $500,000 a year sounds like a lot until you spend $550,000. That's what he did. He was living on credit, living on the assumption that the money would keep flowing. It didn't. Lost his job at 58. Dot-com crash. His company went under. He had high expenses and zero capital. Big house with a big mortgage. Expensive cars with loans. Kids in private school with tuition due. And no income. Went broke. Had to sell everything. The house, the cars. Moved to a smaller place. Kids to public school. He was rich by income, but a pauper by envy. If you make $500,000 a year but spend $550,000, you're broke. If you make $60,000 a year but spend $30,000, you're on your way to independence. It's arithmetic, not philosophy. This executive had everything going for him except one thing. He couldn't control his envy. He needed to look successful more than he needed to be secure, and that killed him. His competitor, another executive at the same company, made the same $500,000 a year, but he lived differently. He lived in a cheaper neighborhood. Middle-class suburb, 30 minutes from work instead of 10. His neighbors were teachers and accountants, not bankers and executives. Drove an old car. 10 years old, paid off. Took modest vacations. Camping trips, road trips. Nothing fancy. He saved $200,000 a year. 10 years later, when the executive lost his job, the competitor had $2 million in liquid assets. $2 million. That's 20 years of living expenses at $100,000 a year, or 40 years at $50,000 a year. He was financially free. Who was richer? The guy who looked poor or the guy who was poor? The guy with the big house and no money or the guy with the small house and $2 million? The answer is obvious, but most people can't see it because they're blinded by envy. If you can't control your envy, no amount of money is enough. If you can control it, $500,000 is a fortune. Once you kill envy, you can see the math. Number 2 is critical mass math. This is the tipping point, the moment when money starts working harder than you do. The first $100,000 is a slog. You're starting from zero. Every dollar feels like a battle. You save $10,000 and it feels like nothing. You save $50,000 and you're still nowhere. It's demoralizing. Most people quit here. They think, what's the point? I'll never get there. But here's what they don't understand. The journey from $100,000 to $500,000 is where the magic happens. Once you hit $100,000, compounding starts to kick in. 10% return on $100,000 is $10,000. That's real money. That's a year of savings for many people, except you didn't have to work for it. The money worked for you. At $500,000, A 10% return is $50,000 a year. That's a median salary. That's what most Americans make working full-time. Except you didn't work. You slept. You went to the beach. You read books. And your capital paid you $50,000. You turned capital into a machine that pays you to exist. Let me tell you my story. Late 1950s, early 1960s, I was a lawyer, not yet a full-time investor. I was making decent money, but nothing spectacular. I probably got paid about $350,000 in my first 13 years of law practice, total. That's about $25,000 a year. Good money for that era, but not rich. And I had an army of children, expenses everywhere, mouths to feed, college to save for. I started with no capital, nothing, zero. But I saved. I lived frugally. I drove an old car. I didn't take fancy vacations. I didn't try to impress anyone. And by the time I was ready to leave law, I had over $300,000 in liquid instruments. $300,000. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $500,000 in today's money. So I had 10 years of living expenses. 10 years. I could live for a decade without earning a dollar. I was not a courageous, venturesome, admirable man. I was a cautious little squirrel saving up more nuts than I really needed and not going very deep into my pile of nuts. That nut, that $300,000, allowed me to quit law and start Wheeler, Munger and Company. I didn't need fees from clients. I didn't need to send invoices. I didn't need to beg richer people for money. I had independence, and independence was what I wanted more than anything. I hated sending other people invoices. I hated needing money from richer people. I thought it was undignified. I wanted my own money, not because I loved ease or social prestige. I wanted the independence. I wanted to be able to say no to anyone, to tell a client to go to hell if he deserved it, to walk away from a deal that didn't make sense, to wait for the right opportunity instead of chasing every opportunity. That's what critical mass does. It gives you options. It gives you time. It gives you patience. And patience is the most valuable asset in investing. If I had needed the money, I would have made different decisions. Worse decisions. I would have sold too early, bought too quickly, chased hot tips. But because I had my nut, my base, I could wait. I could sit on my hands. I could let compounding do the work. Get to critical mass. $500,000. Then the money works for you instead of you working for the money. And once the money is working, you stop worrying about income. You start worrying about protecting the base. But to make this work, you have to look at the goal differently. The third shift is inverting the goal. This is fundamental. Most people try to increase income to match desires. They want the bigger house, so they chase the promotion. They want the nicer car, so they work overtime. They want the exotic vacation, so they take the second job. It's exhausting. It's endless. And it never works because desires grow faster than income. You make twice as much, and suddenly you need 3 times as much. It's a treadmill that speeds up the faster you run. But there's another way. Invert. It is easier to decrease desires to match income than to increase income to match desires. Independence is a function of low burn rate, not high income. If you need $100,000 a year to be happy, you need $2 million to be free at a 5% withdrawal rate. If you need $50,000 a year to be happy, you need $1 million. If you need $30,000 a year, you need $600,000. Lower the number and the target gets easier. Invert. Always invert. That's my philosophy. Don't ask how can I make more. Ask how can I need less. It's a different game, a winnable game, because you control your desires. You don't control the market. You don't control your boss. You don't control the economy. But you control what you buy, what you drive, where you live, what you eat. That's power, real power. Let me tell you about a university professor. 45 years old, Midwest, maybe Omaha, maybe Michigan, modest salary, $60,000 a year, not rich, not poor, solidly middle class. His colleagues complained about money all the time. They said they couldn't afford to save. They had kids in private school. They had car payments. They had vacations to pay for. They spent every dollar they made and then some. They were stressed, anxious, trapped. This professor looked at them and decided he didn't want that life. He decided he didn't need a new car. His car was 15 years old, but it ran fine. He didn't need fancy clothes. He wore the same sport coat for a decade. He didn't need to eat out every week. He cooked at home, simple food, nothing fancy. He didn't need a big house. He rented a modest place. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, enough. He lived on $30,000 a year. That left $30,000 to save every year, like clockwork. His colleagues thought he was strange. They thought he was cheap. They pitied him. Poor guy, they said. Can't afford a nice life. But he wasn't poor. He was strategic. He was playing a different game. They were playing the income game. He was playing the freedom game, and he was winning. By 55, 10 years later, he had $500,000. $500,000. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that's $20,000 a year passive income. Add Social Security, maybe another $15,000. That's $35,000 a year, and he only needed $30,000. His burn rate was so low, he was effectively retired. He could keep teaching if he wanted, but he didn't need to. He taught because he loved it, not because he had to. That's independence. That's freedom. The dean made $120,000 a year, double the professor's salary. Big house in the nice neighborhood, nice car, country club membership, kids in private school, fancy vacations. He looked successful. He looked rich. But he spent $110,000 a year. He saved $10,000 a year. By 55, he had $200,000. And he still needed $110,000 a year to maintain his lifestyle. He needed to keep working. He couldn't say no. He couldn't walk away. He was trapped. Who was richer? The professor with $500,000 and $30,000 needs, or the dean with $200,000 and $110,000 needs? The professor, by a mile. He could say no to his boss. The dean couldn't. He could take a year off. The dean couldn't. He could sleep at night. The dean couldn't. Invert. Don't ask, how can I make more? Ask, how can I need less? Once you have the mass and the low burn rate, you need a shield. Number 4 is the compound shield. This is about defense, about protection, about building a fortress around your capital so the world can't take it from you. If you have $500,000, a 20% drop is $100,000. That hurts. That's years of savings gone in months. You need a buffer to prevent panic selling. You need liquidity. You need go-to-hell money. Money that sits there doing nothing except protecting you from doing something stupid. Safety comes from having capital in forms you can access quickly. Not tied up in your house. Not locked in a business. Not illiquid. Liquid. Cash. Bonds. Stocks you can sell. The ability to survive when everyone else is panicking. That's the shield. That's what protects compounding, because the first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily, and panic is the main interrupter. Let me tell you about a small business owner, 60 years old, Chicago. He ran a manufacturing business, made metal parts for construction companies. Good business, steady cash flow for 20 years. He had $500,000 in net worth. But it was all in the business, the equipment, the inventory, the receivables. No liquidity, no cash sitting in a bank account. He thought that was smart. Why let cash sit idle when I can reinvest it in the business? That's what all the business books say. Reinvest, grow, scale. Then 2020 happened. Pandemic. Construction stopped. His customers stopped ordering. Revenue went to zero. Overnight, he still had expenses. Rent on the building, payroll for key employees, insurance, utilities, suppliers wanting payment for past orders. He needed cash to survive, but he had none. He had $500,000 in assets, but no liquidity. He couldn't sell the equipment. Nobody was buying. He couldn't collect receivables. His customers were broke too. He had to liquidate assets at fire sale prices just to eat. Sold equipment for 20 cents on the dollar, sold inventory for pennies. It was brutal. By the time it was over, he had lost everything. His competitor, another manufacturing business owner down the street, was different. Same age, same business, same $500,000 in net worth. But his $500,000 was split. Half in the business, $250,000 in equipment and inventory, and half outside the business. $250,000 in liquid securities, stocks, bonds, cash. Sitting there, doing nothing, earning modest returns, his accountant told him it was inefficient. "You're leaving money on the table," the accountant said. "You could reinvest that in the business and grow faster." But he didn't listen. He kept the cushion. When the pandemic hit, his revenue stopped too. But he didn't panic. He had $250,000 in liquid assets. He could survive for 2 years without revenue. He slept fine. He didn't have to sell anything. He waited. And while he waited, his competitor was liquidating. Selling equipment at 20 cents on the dollar. Selling inventory at fire sale prices. So he bought the other guy's equipment. He bought the inventory. He paid 20 cents on the dollar for assets worth $1. By the time the pandemic ended, he owned 2 businesses, his and his competitors, and he paid almost nothing for the second one. Cash is not trash when you need it to survive. Liquidity is not inefficiency. It's insurance. It's the moat around your castle. It's what lets you sleep at night when the world is burning. Your $500,000 isn't just for growth. It's a shield against the stupidity of the world. Markets crash. Governments change. Wars happen. Pandemics arrive. Jobs disappear. You need capital that can sit still while everyone else panics. That's the buffer. That's the shield. And if you have the shield, you can take advantage of the chaos. You can buy when others are selling. You can wait when others are desperate. You can win. Finally, you have to avoid the one thing that ruins it all. The last principle is avoidance of folly. This is the hardest one. Because once you have $500,000, everyone will try to take it. Financial advisors who want to charge you fees. Salesmen who want to sell you products. Friends who have sure things. Family members who need loans. Scams dressed up as opportunities. The world is full of people who want your money more than you do, and you will be tempted. Tempted to level up your lifestyle. You have $500,000 now. You can afford the nicer house, the better car, the fancier vacation. You've earned it, you tell yourself, and that's when you lose it. One stupid decision can wipe out a decade of saving. One bad investment, one lifestyle inflation, one moment of weakness, and it's gone. Let me tell you about a doctor. 50 years old, Seattle. He was a radiologist. Made $300,000 a year for 20 years. Good income, steady income. He was disciplined. He saved. He accumulated $500,000 in liquid assets. He should have been set, should have been on his way to real wealth. But he got bored. Bored of living modestly. Bored of driving the same car. Bored of the same house. Bored of saying no to opportunities. He wanted more. not because he needed more, but because he was bored. And boredom is dangerous when you have capital. So he started looking for ways to make his money work harder. He went to a seminar, met a smooth talker. The guy had it all figured out, a sure thing tax shelter scheme. Invest in this special partnership, the guy said. You'll save on taxes and make 20% a year. Guaranteed. The doctor was smart, educated, years of training, but he was bored and greedy. And smart people do stupid things when they're bored and greedy. He invested $250,000, half his net worth, into a partnership he didn't understand, with people he didn't know, because a smooth talker in a nice suit told him it was a sure thing. It wasn't a sure thing. It was a fraud. The partnership was fake. The tax benefits were illegal. The IRS came after him. He lost the $250,000. Then he owed back taxes, then penalties, then interest. By the time it was over, he lost everything. $500,000 gone. Back to zero. 20 years of saving erased in 2 years of stupidity. He was smart enough to get it, but not wise enough to keep it. And that's the difference. Getting to $500,000 requires discipline. Keeping $500,000 requires wisdom. Wisdom is knowing when to say no, knowing when an opportunity is too good to be true, knowing that boring is good, knowing that doing nothing is often the right move. It takes character to sit there with all that cash and do nothing. Everyone around you is making moves, making deals, making money, or claiming to. And you're sitting there with your $500,000 in boring index funds earning 8% a year. It feels inadequate. It feels like you're missing out. But you're not. You're compounding. And compounding is the most powerful force in finance, but only if you don't interrupt it. I've made this mistake myself. I once sold a stock too early because I got impatient. The stock was See's Candies. We bought it for peanuts. It was a wonderful business. But I thought I could do better. I thought I was being smart. I was being stupid. That mistake cost me more money than I want to admit. If I had just sat there and done nothing, I would be twice as rich today. But I interrupted the compounding. I got clever. And clever is the enemy of rich. I learned to sit still. I learned that the big money is not in the buying or the selling. It's in the waiting. And waiting is the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's the only thing that works. Once you hit the number $500,000, the goal shifts. From accumulation to defense, from offense to defense. Don't lose it. Don't let fees erode it. Don't let inflation destroy it. Don't let your own stupidity ruin it. Protect it, nurture it, let it compound, and for God's sake, don't get bored and do something stupid. Now, let me tell you a story about independence. 1940s, 1950s. I was young, building my law practice, starting a family. I didn't have money, but I had something more important. I had a clear goal. I wanted to be independent, not rich. Independent, there's a difference. Rich means you have a lot of money. Independent means you don't need anyone's permission to live your life. I watched my father. He was a lawyer too, good lawyer, respected. But he was dependent on clients, dependent on fees, dependent on people richer than him. He had to smile at people he didn't like. He had to take cases he didn't believe in. He had to send invoices and hope they got paid. I thought that was undignified. I didn't want that life, so I decided early. I'm going to save enough money so I never have to ask anyone for anything. I don't need to be the richest man in town. I just need enough to say no, enough to walk away, enough to work on what I want, not what I have to. That was my goal, independence. And the number for independence was much lower than most people think. I lived frugally. I saved my first substantial sum to ensure I could say no to anyone. I lived in a modest house, nothing fancy. I drove a modest car, nothing flashy. I didn't go to expensive restaurants. I didn't take exotic vacations. I didn't try to impress anyone. And people thought I was cheap. They thought I was missing out. But I wasn't. I was building my fortress. I was building my independence. The $500,000 adjusted for inflation from my day, that $300,000 I saved, wasn't about luxury. It was about owning my own time. I didn't want to be a slave to the billable hour. I didn't want to wake up every morning and think about fees and clients and invoices. I wanted to wake up and think about ideas, about investments, about what interested me. And to do that, I needed capital. I needed my nut. And once I had it, everything changed. I could wait for good opportunities instead of chasing every opportunity. I could say no to bad clients. I could focus on what mattered. That's why I have these rules. Rule 1. Lower your expectations. This is the key to happiness. Not just financial happiness, all happiness. If you expect a yacht and you get a sailboat, you're miserable. If you expect a sailboat and you get a rowboat, you're miserable. If you expect nothing and you get a rowboat, you're delighted. Expectations are the enemy of contentment. Lower them. Aggressively, deliberately, make it a practice. If you lower the denominator in the wealth equation, capital divided by desires, you need less capital. It's arithmetic. Rule 2. Invert. Always invert. This is how I solve problems. I don't ask how do I succeed. I ask how do I fail. Then I avoid those things. In finance, don't ask how can I get rich. Ask how can people stay poor. They spend more than they earn. They take on bad debt. They chase hot tips. They let envy drive decisions. Avoid those things and you'll be fine. Focus on spending less, not just earning more. It's easier. It's more reliable, and it compounds faster. Rule 3. Avoid standard stupidities. I have a list. Envy, that's on the list. Envy will ruin you faster than any market crash. Debt for consumption, that's on the list. Borrowing money to buy things that depreciate is financial suicide. Chasing complexity, that's on the list. Simple beats complex. Boring beats exciting. Slow beats fast. Every time. If you can avoid the standard ways of failing, you don't need to be brilliant. You just need to not be stupid. And not being stupid is easier than being brilliant. These 3 rules will take you further than any genius strategy. Let me show you someone who did exactly this. My mother's grandfather was Grandpa Ingham. He was a pioneer in Iowa. Came out in the 1830s with no money. Nothing, just youth and health. He fought in the Black Hawk Wars. He was a captain, fought the Indians, survived. And when the fighting was over, he stayed. He didn't go back east where it was safe and civilized. He stayed in Iowa and bought land. Cheap land, black topsoil, the richest soil in the world. You could grow anything in that soil, but nobody knew it yet, so it was cheap. $1 an acre, maybe less. He was aggressive. He was intelligent. But he wasn't in a hurry. He didn't try to get rich fast. He accumulated land slowly, methodically, bought a few farms every time there was a panic. 1830s panic, 1850s panic, 1870s panic. Every time the economy crashed and everyone else was panicking and selling, he was buying. He had cash, he had patience, and he had the wisdom to act when others were paralyzed by fear. He avoided debt. This was key. Everyone around him was borrowing, leveraging, trying to get rich quick. He didn't. He paid cash. He grew slowly. He leased his farms to thrifty Germans. You couldn't lose money with leasing a farm to a German in Iowa. They worked hard, they paid on time, they took care of the land, and he just sat there and collected rent. He only did a few things, but he did them right. He didn't try to be clever. He didn't diversify into 100 different schemes. He bought good farmland. He leased it to good tenants. He reinvested the cash flow. That was it. Simple, boring, effective. Eventually, after decades, he was the richest man in the town, owned the bank, highly regarded, huge family, very happy life. And his attitude, the attitude my mother remembered and told me, was this: in a favored life like his, when you were located in the right place, you just got a few opportunities. If you live to be about 90, maybe 10 opportunities, maybe 5, not hundreds, not thousands, just a few. The trick in coming out well was recognizing those few opportunities and seizing them aggressively when they came. That's all. Wait, recognize, act, then wait again. Compare that to the speculators of the 1920s. They wanted to get rich quick. They borrowed money to buy stocks on margin. They chased every hot tip. They traded constantly. They thought they were smart. When the crash came in 1929, they were wiped out. Died broke. Grandpa Ingham died the richest man in town. The speculators died broke. He wanted to get rich, sure. They wanted to get rich quick. Slow wins, boring wins, patient wins, every time. Let me tie this all together. Item 1. Kill envy. Stop comparing yourself to others. The moment you start measuring your life by someone else's ruler, you've lost. You'll never have enough. There will always be someone richer, someone luckier, someone with more. If that bothers you, you'll never have peace. Kill envy or it will kill you. Item 2. Reach critical mass. $500,000 is the tipping point. That's when money starts working harder than you do. That's when you stop being a slave and start being free. Get to $500,000, however long it takes, whatever it costs. That's the number. Item 3. Invert the goal. Stop trying to make more. Start trying to need less. Lower your burn rate. Lower your expectations. Lower the denominator in the wealth equation. If you can live on $30,000 a year, you need $600,000 to be free at 5%. If you can live on $20,000 a year, you need $400,000. The less you need, the faster you get there. Item 4. Use the shield. Don't put all your money in one place. Don't tie it all up in illiquid assets. Keep some in cash. Keep some in bonds. Keep some liquid. So when the world goes crazy, and it will, you can sit still, you can wait, you can even buy. That's the shield. That's what protects compounding. Item 5. Avoid folly. Once you have it, don't lose it. Don't let fees eat it. Don't let your own stupidity destroy it. Don't get bored and do something clever. Clever is the enemy of rich. Boring is your friend. Sit still, do nothing, let compounding work. That's all. The formula is simple. Accumulate $500,000. Keep your desires low. Let compound interest do the heavy lifting. That's it. No secret, no trick, no hack. Just arithmetic. Here's the math. $500,000 at 8% annual return is $40,000 a year. If you can live on $30,000, you're growing capital at $10,000 a year and living free. You don't need $10 million. You don't need $5 million. You need $500,000 in discipline. Think about it. If you save $30,000 a year for 17 years, you have $510,000, assuming no investment returns. If you invest it and earn 8%, you get there in 12 years. 12 years, 1 decade. That's all. 1 decade of discipline and you're free. But most people won't do it. They can't delay gratification. They can't live below their means. They can't ignore their neighbors. They can't sit still. And so they die broke, working until they're 80, dependent on Social Security, dependent on their kids, dependent on charity. That's not independence. That's slavery. Check your net worth right now. Where are you? Zero? Start saving. $50,000? You're on your way. $100,000? You're at the tipping point. $200,000. You can see the finish line. $300,000? You're almost there. $400,000. One more year. $500,000? You made it. Now protect it. I'm 99 years old. I don't have much time left. Maybe days, maybe weeks. I don't know. But I've learned something that took me 70 years to understand. Something most people never learn. Independence is worth more than luxury. Most people spend their entire lives trying to look rich. They buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like. And they die broke, miserable, trapped. The smart ones, the free ones, they live below their means. They drive old cars, they live in modest houses, they take cheap vacations, and they build their pile quietly. They reach $500,000 and they stop worrying. They reach $1 million and they laugh at everyone still on the treadmill. They don't look rich. They are rich. There's a difference. I've been rich and I've been poor. I grew up during the Great Depression with nothing. My father lost everything. We ate cheap food. We wore old clothes. I know what poor feels like. And I ended up a billionaire. I've lived both lives. And let me tell you something that nobody wants to hear. The happiest people I've known weren't the richest. They were the ones who stopped keeping score. There's always someone with a bigger balance sheet, always someone who got luckier, always some idiot who struck oil in his backyard or bought Apple stock in 2003 and never sold. If that bothers you, you'll never have peace, no matter how much you accumulate. The goal is not to die with the most money. That's a stupid goal. The goal is to live without needing to ask anyone for permission. That's independence. That's freedom. And you don't need $10 million to get there. You don't need $5 million. You need $500,000 and the wisdom to know when enough is enough, when to stop chasing, when to stop comparing, when to stop wanting more. I'm telling you this because I'm about to die. This is my last chance to tell the truth. And the truth is simple. Independence is worth more than luxury. $500,000 is enough. Stop chasing millions. Stop trying to impress people. Stop wasting your life on things that don't matter. Go get your $500,000. Live below your means. Protect your capital. Let it compound. And be free. That's all. That's the whole game. Independence is worth more than luxury. Go get it.